The AMR Industry Alliance is a coalition of biotech, diagnostics, generics and pharmaceutical companies working together to combat antimicrobial resistance. We spoke with James Anderson, chair of the Alliance, about the global threat posed by AMR, the challenges in developing new antibiotics, and the Alliance's efforts to promote responsible manufacturing and ensure access to effective treatments worldwide.
James Anderson, thank you for joining us. Now, the UN has identified AMR as one of the biggest global health threats that there is today. How big is that threat?
It's a really significant problem in global health. Over 1 million people die from resistant infections already, and that's getting worse. When the UN met in 2016 to discuss AMR, the private sector came together and created the AMR Industry Alliance. And since then, we've been working to contribute to combating AMR. We develop new antibiotics. That's one of the most important things, to make sure that as resistance builds up, we have treatments that can still work. We also work to ensure that access is available for patients all around the world to the antibiotics they need. We work with diagnostics companies to make sure that the right patients get the right antibiotics. And we've been working hard to make sure that the factories that make antibiotics take very good care to not discharge any antibiotics into the environment when they do so.
You need it because we take antibiotics for granted, but we can't do that anymore, can we?
Absolutely not. No one can. The more an antibiotic is used, the more the bacteria will develop resistance to it, and therefore the faster we'll lose that antibiotic. Since 2016, 10 new antibiotics have been delivered into the market, but 7 of the companies that did that no longer exist. And that's because the economics of developing antibiotics doesn't really work in the same way as it does for other medicines. So one of the things we've been working with governments on is to change the economic model, and the UK has done a tremendous leading role on that by introducing a subscription model for purchasing antibiotics in a new way that gives a guarantee to the companies so that they can invest into development.
And you're also looking at the environment as well, aren't you?
That's right. So bacteria can also get resistance by encountering antibiotics in the environment. There are different ways that antibiotics get into the environment, mostly as a result of us or animals taking them and then excreting it out into the environment, but also in how they're thrown away sometimes in medical systems, and also from factories, as I mentioned, that make antibiotics. If they don't manage their discharges very carefully, that can also end up in the waterways or in the soil, and thereby, again, the bacteria can encounter those antibiotics.
So how are you working with companies to make sure that doesn't happen?
First of all, we needed to set some guidelines, some standards of what good looks like. And we did that back a few years ago under the AMR Alliance by bringing all the experts from the companies together to agree what best practice is. And then more recently, we've worked with the British Standards Institute to develop an independent certification scheme. And that will bring in auditors to assess each company as to whether they are living up to the standards that have been set. In other words, are they doing the responsible manufacturing that results in minimal levels of discharge? It's roughly the equivalent of 1 or 2 tablets of antibiotics in an entire Olympic-sized swimming pool full of water, which is a level that all the experts believe does not cause any problems in terms of resistance.
And this is a global problem. How worried are you?
Well, I am worried, but we know what needs to be done. And that's why when the United Nations meet, it is very important to bring the world together, rich countries, poor countries, all around the world, to make sure that the steps are being taken to benefit patients. Because at the end of the day, if patients have infections that can't be treated, it really changes what we can do in modern healthcare. particularly common if common surgical procedures, a tooth extraction or a cesarean section or a knee replacement, if those become too risky, imagine what our health would be like. And that's the risk. That's what we all need to be working together to make sure we don't get to that place.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us.